Watkins Glen is a name synonymous with racing history. For more than 60 years, the New York State Circuit has hosted the world's best, and sports cars have been a staple. For the Continental Tire SportsCar Challenge, it's the site of their 4th race of the season. The Stevenson Camaro team will look for their 3rd straight victory in the Grand Sport class, while the Freedom Autosport Mazdas, led by wounded warrior Liam Dwyer, take aim at their 2nd win in a row. It all starts right now on Fox Sports. For 2 generations, the big track on the hill at the foot of New York's Lake Seneca has been a mecca for road racing fans from around the world. Welcome to round 4 of the Continental Tire SportsCar Challenge for 2015, the Continental Tire 150 from legendary Watkins Glen International. Hello, everybody. I'm Bob Barsha with Calvin Fish and Tommy Kendall, 2 men who have logged lots of laps around this great old racetrack. We've had heavy morning rain, and more is expected as this race unfolds, but that will only add to the challenge of this spectacular track. Always great to be at Watkins Glen, Tommy. It's like a step back in time.
It is, and what attracted people way back in the day when they raced through the city and closer to my heart, the early days of Trans Am racing, is present in spades in this series. Namely, you can buy a car, slap some numbers on it more or less, and go out and race. And people battle for supremacy, battle for marketing rights. And as a lot of cars have gotten more sophisticated, even production cars, and you have to squint to tell what they are. They're cool, but they're not really representative. That's really not the case here, and what I think is the core appeal of the series.
Absolutely, Tommy. And there's so many great brands represented in the championship, and one such brand, GM, got off to a great start this championship year by winning their 2nd race at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. The Chevy Camaro of the number 6, Rob Liddell, Andrew Davis, have extended their points lead, but since that time, we've seen no action in 8 weeks. Has allowed a lot of the competition and other teams to do their homework, do some testing, and for one camp, Ford, well, they're debuting the brand new Shelby GT350 RC, showing a lot of pace here this weekend. So not only is the championship heating up in competition, but also the schedule. More on how they qualified this weekend. Let's get down to the first of our pit reporters, and that's Brian Tell.
Well, thanks, Calvin. You know, the battle for the pole in Grand Sport all year long has been between Ford and Chevy. Ford claimed it at Daytona, then Chevy took the next 2. We come here to Watkins Glen, Ford back on top, but as you said, in that brand new Ford Shelby GT350 RC. A lot of people surprised to see it on pole in its debut, but you take Multimatic, you combine that with Ford, you're going to have a very fast race car. Fast is one thing, though. What about the endurance? Can it make it to the checkered flag? Can it win on debut? The Chevy guys, well, they've got their work cut out for them. Some balance of performance after their win at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, 20 extra kilograms, and on top of that, they also have a smaller restrictor to breathe through, so they'll have their work cut out. But take a look at this. Nissan 370Zs, 2 of them qualify in the first 2 rows. Those Ford and Chevy drivers better be looking in their mirrors. We could have the 3rd different manufacturer in victory lane for Grand Sport here this weekend. For ST, here's Jamie Howe.
Well, Brian, in-street tuner Justin Piscatell is on pole for the 4th time this season in as many races. He's claimed that top spot in 2 different cars for 2 different teams. This weekend, he's back with Christian Shimshak in a Lara Motorsports Mazda. But what makes the story even more remarkable is the fact that Justin does not have a full season ride, and he's on a last-minute, race-by-race basis if he's even going to get behind the wheel of the car. But with a pair of podium finishes this season, he's only 9 points out of that top spot in the championship points, but it is tight up there. There are 4 drivers currently tied for the lead. The top 6 all within only 3 points of each other. 3 points, that separates 1st and the 2nd place finish. So a finish here today is crucial, guys.
Thanks very much, Brian and Jamie. Now let's take a look at this legendary track. Tommy?
As we zoom into the Finger Lakes region, real picturesque part of the country, track no different, 3.4 miles, 11 turns. You've got those great climbing S's after the 90-degree, heading into turn 5, and then you go down turn 6 through 9, what's known as the boot. And the course layout is challenging enough on its own, but what guys are trying to figure out now is how do you deal with the rain? You've got different terrain, namely you've got asphalt and concrete, but you also have to deal with both on racing line and off. And so guys are really trying to figure out where that goes in a hurry and before they get racing.
As you can see, the track thoroughly wet. As I mentioned, more rain is expected as the afternoon goes on. There's our Continental starting grid across the top of your screen. Blue for the big Grand Sport cars, orange background for the high-revving street tuners. And with that, the safety car pulls off. And the field of Grand Sport cars will lead away, to be followed by the street tuners. And that big Mustang GT 350R, Scott Maxwell at the controls, starting right up front.
Oh, a great start, and he's really gapped Brad Jaeger as they come down into turn one. Jaeger takes that wide line, as you talked about, Tommy, as the run bump machine of Hugh Plum there, tucks it down to the inside. Nice clean start for GS.
It's safe to say that new Shelby is confidence inspiring, because I mean he gapped the field big time as we see the ST field.
Piscatel and McCumbee in the two Mazdas get down inside of Bohm there in the Civic.
Oh, 3 wide, 4 wide down in turn one. Slick as ice, the
Someone
driver's
really
dummy.
sideways there in the middle of the pack, trying to squeeze on that power a little bit too aggressively. Tiptoeing through this opening lap, Tommy.
You see him staying off the racing line. When you go through S's, you got to cross over it at some point. And when you do that, what I used to always think about is almost like tiptoeing. You don't want to give too much input. You don't want to move the steering. You don't want to do anything aggressive with the gas or the brakes.
Talking to the drivers, it's just not the concrete and the blacktop and the difference of grip. There's also some sealant out there that's been put down over the various years and trying to keep the car in good shape that's actually going to be resurfaced later this year. So you've really got to keep your eyes about you and just feel the grip around this racetrack.
And notice the different lines the drivers are taking. The classic rain line is off the racing line because you want the asphalt where the aggregate has not been worn down, where it's jagged, and it'll offer the most grip in the wet. But these guys are getting after it. Oh!
Ordinarily, an outside move would be not even thinkable, but for the reason you were saying, oftentimes that's where the grip is. It's a little bit hairy because there's no margin for error, but you can go sailing around the outside of people.
Well, you've
a lot of
got
fun.
grip, and then the dry line intersects it, so you've
Yes.
got to be thinking ahead. Where would I normally be on the racetrack? I'm suddenly going to lose grip again.
That was Jeff Mosing in the 56 Porsche Cayman. Porsche versus BMW here as they get down into the toe of the boot.
It's one of the things I used to like about it. And whenever there was a rain track, the way I prepared is the last thing I want to do was to get out there in the rain. But I used to slosh around and go corner to corner and watch all the support races so that I could get a decent idea. And look at him way outside. The car on the inside's not exactly hugging the bottom. Big slide as the road falls away. But there, you can see the grip. It didn't just go into a huge slide and keep going. It actually hooked up.
Back on the point. The big GS Mustang in the hands of Scott Maxwell.
Well, there's been a big question all season long. When would they debut this car and how strong will it be? Well, they're certainly making a statement, grabbing the pole, and Scott Maxwell taking off here in these very tricky conditions. Brad Jaeger doing a great job there, sitting in second. Nissan finished second last time out and also finished second here last year. So it's a lightweight car, Tommy. And we talk about if it had been dry today, they could have really been in great shape in terms of tire degradation, but the wet is really the ultimate equalizer.
Third place is Hugh Plum in that bright blue and yellow Rum Bum Porsche 911. So it's Ford, Nissan, Porsche in the top 3 spots in GS.
No, those Camaros nowhere to be seen in this shot. Look how quickly the field is spacing out.
There's
there
Andrew
you see
Davis.
the first one.
Yeah, Andrew Davis has got ahead of his teammate Matt Bell. Andrew qualified on the 3rd row of the grid. But a nice clean start, but he's a really savvy racer. They got the championship right now, 9-point lead. Just think about it. Don't do anything silly in the early laps here.
At the top of the show, Brian Till referred to the BOP, the balance of performance adjustments that are applied to these cars. Uh-oh, we've got an accident.
It's Ellsworth
Turn
in
one.
one of the minis.
And this looks, I'm guessing, well, we shouldn't do that, but I'm guessing someone got up on the outside curve and shot over and took someone with them.
Yes,
Full course yellow.
Breedis and Ellsworth involved there.
See the red Mini on the inside.
Watch Breedis, yeah, he just loses it on the curbing there. The painted stripe, that's like glass as well. We talked about the blacktop concrete. You've also got these painted curbs, and if you're accelerating on those, you're going to lose grip. Let's take a look. Breedis there gets a little bit wide. Just touches that yellow line, Tommy. He's gone.
Yeah, it jacks a little bit of a weight across the chassis, and it's super slippery and just shoots him over to the right side of the track.
So that Mini John Cooper Works team machine, totally innocent victim. The crews go to work, full course caution waves. We'll take this opportunity for a break on a drippy day, but hey, it's road racing. The race goes on. Welcome back to a drizzly day at Watkins Glen International in round 4 of the Continental Tire Sports Car Challenge for 2015, the Continental Tire 150. Safety car has pulled off. Scott Maxwell remains on the lead in the Mustang, and we are back to green.
Short caution flag procedure to happened in the first 15 minutes of this race, so Maxwell needs to see if he can do the same job he did on the opening lap. Tight there between two Mustangs trying to funnel through that turn 1 area. You can see there a lot more horsepower with these GS cars. They can really have trouble.
Maxwell way over to driver's left in the S's.
Even though they've switched cars for this weekend, debuting this new Shelby, they were on the verge of winning at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca with the old model car and had a bit of a snafu with their communication on some pit strategy. Here we see a great battle with Hugh Plum looking to the inside of Jaeger.
Not an excessive amount of moisture on the racetrack. You don't see an awful lot of spray out there, so the drivers should have a pretty good view of what's happening in front of them. Of course, that's easy for me to say.
Maxwell looks comfortable, doesn't he?
He does.
Oh, he's got grip.
Just huge confidence, and I expect, as some of the other guys maybe were taking a little more conservative to stay a little closer this time, but it doesn't look to be the case. He's checking out. I mean, look at this, half a lap and already a pretty good gap.
Well, in Canada, they think this is a summer's day, so he's probably really comfortable.
Down through the chute and into the section of the track known as the boot.
Ashley Freiberg there. That BMW got a little bit of BOP, as we call it, adjustment of performance. Less weight, a little bit more restrictor, as they've been struggling here. The championship winning car, Trent Hinman, of course, won the championship last year alongside John Edwards. Ashley has moved into that seat, taken over from John this year. Had a couple of top 5s, but not the sort of pace that Four-Line were looking for.
You guys talking about the strength of the Mustang out front and how the Stevenson Camaros had dropped back a little bit. I just checked in with Mike Johnson. The 6 is okay, running 4th right now, but a little further back, 1 position back, is the 9 of Matt Bell. They had an ABS failure on the pace lap, so right now Bell having to drive that Camaro without the advantage of anti-lock braking system around Watkins Glen, a very wet Watkins Glen.
Old school.
Yeah, old school, which is fine and fun if everybody else is dealing with the same thing, but a huge disadvantage with the way ABS has gotten. Even the best driver cannot compete with ABS. Plum looking to go the long way. But actually, again, as we said before, that's where the grip is. And now it'll be interesting to see if he can close this gap to Maxwell. See, the brake on the inside for the exact same reason. Basically, you want to be pretty much offline everywhere is a good place to start. And then as things go and as you feel it out, you make adjustments to that. And again, the challenge, because if you're on the outside here and you cross over, that's the inside of the next corner. So you got to kind of tiptoe across the line where the old line merges up. You got to do more of your turning beforehand and then get your hands kind of quiet and straight when you get to that exit where the line rejoins with the offline race line.
Particularly into that downhill braking zone for turn 1. If you start to get locked up there on line, that's really hard to adjust and keep the car under control. But wow, look at this. Maxwell must have a problem because Plum is all over him, and that was from several car lengths back going through turn 1. Either Maxwell had a bobble or there's something going on with that race car.
So Hugh Plum moves to the lead in the overall and Grand Sport classes.
Maxwell had a 1.3 second lead at the stripe, and you can see that he's been overtaken and dropping back immediately.
Here come the Stevenson Camaros chasing the Nissan.
Maxwell staying pretty close now. That's one of the neat things about rain racing is nobody's immune to mistakes, so you can make mistakes, regroup. Guys that maybe weren't as quick opening, just kind of start sorting things out, settle into a rhythm. You can see how dramatic that rain line is. You look up ahead. I mean, they're a full 4 or 5 car widths off the line you would be on in the drive.
You're just squeezing that throttle, just really being gentle with the throttle application. A lot of horsepower in these cars, so it really makes it tricky.
And to be honest, ABS really equalizes cars a ton. Back in the day where that was where most of the time was finding grip under braking. They have the confidence. The car would usually go deeper than you would think until it wouldn't. And so dealing with that was where a lot of the...
And smooth downshifting as well as that braking, Tommy, is real key. Just having good toe and heel downshift techniques with the old gearboxes.
There's another look at the pass. The Porsche is squirming slightly under braking. adding to all the driving challenges that Calvin and Tommy have described, you've got the racetrack. As you mentioned earlier, Calvin, you've got asphalt new and old. You've got that sealant down on some of the cracks. You've got concrete patches here and there.
Did you hear that exhaust note?
No, tell me about it.
Well, we're going to go down to Jamie to get more information, but we'll come back to that.
Well, Tommy, it's pretty simple. I just checked in with Larry Holden, Multimatic, and he said there was no problem with the car. Scott didn't report anything, but he is just trying to find his way out there and trying to find that line that you guys have been mentioning. So the car is fine. Brian?
Just checked in with BJ Zacharias, who shares the number 14 with Brad Jager, and I asked him about the rain. He said the problem is this Doran team really hasn't had a chance to run that Nissan in the rain very much. It's very much of an unknown. The one thing that is known about this racetrack in the rain, Kevin Doran knows how to get around here. He's won multiple times in the 6 hours, and he knows how to get it done in the wet, so they put a setup on that Nissan. They think they've got a good car, but Calvin, you were spot on. BJ Zacharias said, I'm one of the few guys out here that didn't want to see it rain. If it had stayed dry, we would have had a very, very fast car.
Yeah, I think they were going to be looking strong for maybe grabbing their first win. And there's not the question. You can see they're still very much in the wicks. You can see the fogging situation on the windshield right now that drives having to deal with. But here's the battle between the Mazdas up front in ST. Our pole sitter continues to lead, the number 34 car.
Justin Piscatell.
This is a great case that a lot of uncertainty. He doesn't know where he's driving from week to week. He's focusing on what he can control, which is driving the car. And it's easy to get wrapped up in, I got to find money, I got to do that. He's going to make it hard on someone to not keep him in a car.
He's also done his homework. Tommy, you guys have talked about the different parts of this racetrack that are crucial to know when it's raining, the sealant, the concrete patches, etc. Justin went on the track walk this week and he paid close attention to where all of those areas are, because with the opportunity that he has to race, he doesn't want to leave anything to chance. So just going that little bit of extra step, it's helped him a lot today as he continues to lead.
Dylan Murcott is starting to put some pressure on here as McCumbee goes to the front. Piscatell drops to second, but that Cayman is looking pretty strong as well.
It's like our camera's having a tougher time than the drivers in terms of dealing with the rain. You get the feeling of this racetrack, rarely level, very difficult to race. But that's part of the challenge of the Continental Tire SportsCar Series. We'll be back. Back at Watkins Glen, let's get you up to speed. Eric Zimmerman slid off in turn 8 in his ST class Porsche. That brought out our second full course caution of the day. And some cars needed it.
They did. Matt Ballard reported no ABS. The team went to work. It's about 4 minutes for the pace car under caution to get around it. So plenty of time for the crew to go to work. They found a wire that was disconnected, got him back out. And most importantly, the communication was, Matt, you have plenty of time. We've got to go through the whole yellow flag procedure. Just cruise back around and go back and get them. They should be in good shape and they're topped up with fuel.
So he'll take his place at the back of the field. The BMW Performance Safety Car pulls off and Scott Maxwell leads Hugh Plum. That's a position change down into 1.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly had a great run on all of these restarts. So certainly the engine and initial torque is working well from that new Shelby GT350R.
Tommy Kendall leans in every time we go on board in that GT350 to listen to that flat crank.
Flat plane crank. And when I heard that, I was at the auto show on Thanksgiving Day, and I just stood and stared at that car for a while and imagining what it sounded like as we see Plum looking to the outside. It's easier to fend in the rain because you can do these weird lines, and so you get a little more latitude in terms of whether you're blocking or not.
Good point.
One of a dozen new models of car that Ford Motor Company intends to introduce in the next months, including that fabulous GT that we'll see in competition in the Tudor United Sports Car Championship and at Le Mans as part of the World Endurance Championship.
That's Austin Cindric in the second Multimatic car.
16 years of age.
Very impressive, putting some stellar qualifying performances in various forms of competition here in the last couple of years, and really learning his trade very well. Nice young man and doing a great job.
And I'm sure he has a goal of what he'd like to do, but he's literally driving anything that anyone will let him drive.
On board now for the restart. You ride with Scott Maxwell. tactical drift from the Porsche.
Timed it about perfectly.
It was.
And back to Austin Cindric, son of Tim Cindric, president of Penske Racing. I mean, if you're Multimatic, you're Ford Motor Company, you're going to put this car on debut in the series in the hands of a 16-year-old?
Well, the racing bloodlines. His mother is Megan, formerly Megan Truman. Truman family of Mid-Ohio grew up around a racetrack as well.
Yeah, it's a great story, and he's got a great young teammate alongside him, Jake Buford. I mean, he's, you know, with Multimatic were running the Astons, he went on a pole streak there, just remarkable. So he's got a lot of pace. So this is a very potent young combination, and you got the veterans, let's call it, Scott Maxwell alongside Billy Johnson in the 15 car. Multimatic are looking to do great things and try and claw their way back into this championship. They sit 22 points behind the Stevenson group right now.
Brad Jager in the Nissan leads a group of 4, running 3rd through 7th. We'll pick up the battle in the ST category, where we have a new leader in the 5, Mazda MX-5, Chad McCumbee.
Piscatell has dropped back a little bit, and you can see there Dylan Murcott in that white Cayman in the 3rd spot. Keeps looking to the inside, and Kevin Boehm doing a great job. Hart really on form here. Had a quiet season and a half, really. The won a few races back in 2013 with Michael Valiente and Chad Gilsinger. But went a little bit quiet last year, and been rotating different co-drivers in with Gilsinger this year. Petey Cunningham did Daytona. Kuno Whitman did the next 2 rounds, and new co-driver for Chad this weekend as well.
Tell where that sealant is, just that shiny surface on the racetrack. Everybody avoiding it as best they can.
You'll learn from one another. You're certainly going to get the feel from your own race car, but if you see someone in front of you suddenly able to take a little bit more speed through one of the corners, like, okay, let me try that next lap, and gradually you'll start to piece together what is the optimum line in these conditions. But as the rain changes or eases up or gets more heavy, Tommy, obviously that changes once again.
Yeah, the field tends to kind of tend towards the same, not the same speed, but especially with ABS and being able to watch, you know, we saw Maxwell check out at first, and now everybody taking a little bit easier at start, or starting to find their rhythm and figure out where the grip is, where it isn't, and you see the lead group staying together a little closer.
Tell you what, though, looking at lap times, best lap times here today in the 2:24 range by Scott Maxwell, Hugh Plum, everyone else down in the 26s, 27s, 28s. So those 2 lead cars right now have a huge bump in terms of pace compared to the competition. One thing that didn't have, we talked about the communication between Stevenson to Matt Bell. He didn't get the wave around. He's kind of buried in the ST pack right now. So normally you get regrouped with your GS field. That didn't happen here for some reason. So not sure if he didn't have enough time to get back onto the tail end of the lap for that wave round to be completed.
That would be my guess. Yeah, he just didn't have quite enough time. We were frankly a little bit surprised when that green flag waved. And Hugh Plum moves back to the lead past Scott Maxwell.
I wonder if Maxwell got crossed up coming off the last corner there, because that's kind of a reverse of what we saw in the restart. And he was well by him before they got to turn 1.
I think that initial pass for the lead earlier in this race, Maxwell had to have had a problem coming through turn 1, because we said he had nearly a 2.5 lead going over the start-finish line. Suddenly by the S's, Plum was in the lead, so something went amiss there momentarily.
4 different makes in the first 4 spots. That's what's amazing. You look at, you know, that Nissan is almost 500 pounds lighter than the heaviest car in the class.
And now word from race control is that Scott Maxwell in that number 15 Shelby Mustang GT350 RC is going to get a drive-through penalty for jumping the restart.
That's going to be tight, because we
could drive-through penalty.
Wow, that's going to cost him 30 seconds just driving down pit lane at the speed limit required there compared to the pace of the cars out on the racetrack. Let's take another look at this onboard, Tommy. You said he timed it perfectly.
The key is where the green comes out. You're not allowed to pull out a line. Now, they might have taken exception. Well, he is a little bit offset. Couldn't see the starter stand real well, but
so he initiated the pass, but he didn't make the pass before the green flew.
Oh, but the way they do that generally is if you pull out, that's generally how. And so where the monkey business can take place, where they don't want you lagging back either, but that's much harder to police, because unless you got a great horizontal shot from head on, you can't tell if he's lagging or not. So vision probably came into play with spray. You know,
That'll be his argument for sure.
Probably argue that you kind of moved him over a little bit too by taking the middle of the road.
I think that was a hard call, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Now here's Plum,
That's
giving as good as he got.
That's how he went around the outside of the Nissan too.
Yeah, he likes the outside line, and once you get comfortable with it.
From on board the 15.
Just relying on the other driver knowing you're there, or having a spotter who's telling him that you are there. But these are two of the best in the business in Maxwell and Plum as Maxwell hits pit lane.
And moves everybody up one spot.
Bid for second. Not a serious look, but letting know Jagger that he's there, and worried a little bit underneath.
Jagger likes the outside line. He never gets to the apex, so he's taking that wider line. It looks like he's lost some momentum there, but suddenly when you come off the corner, he's got the power down and off he shoots.
Yeah, deeper on the brakes down in turn 3 than Andrew Davis, or 2, I should say.
Now jump that start. You missed the shift.
Well, that's how Scott Maxwell saw it. I had to jump out. He missed a shift. So the battle continues now for second here. Jager in the Nissan, Davis in the Camaro, Cindric in the Mustang, getting tail happy. We'll be back to Watkins Glen. Welcome back to Watkins Glen International and the Continental Tire 150, where pit stops are beginning now. Hugh Plum leads the overall and Grand Sport division in a Porsche, and leading in ST, Chad McCumbee for CJ Wilson Racing, the team owned by the famous Major League Baseball pitcher. Chad McCumbee at the wheel. In addition to his racing accomplishments, he also appeared in the movie 3 as Dale Earnhardt Jr., and he learned that acting in behalf of a racing superstar entailed a certain risk.
I was working at a driving school up in Charlotte, and Barry Pepper, who played Earnhardt in the film, came through and had asked me if I want to come read some script with him. So it was a really neat, interesting thing I got to do there. I had some pretty strange experiences, you know, personally with fans here and there. I got bit one time. I was signing an autograph, and she grabbed my arm, and I don't know if she got excited. She just got super excited, and she didn't know what else to do. It was strange. And she didn't draw blood or anything. I mean, it wasn't penetrating bite, but it absolutely happened. But I almost didn't do it, honestly, because I was going to miss a few weekends of racing down in Myrtle Beach. So racing is #1, but really fortunate to have that opportunity. I called him just to make sure that he was going to be good with everything and have his blessing on it. He's like, hey man, go for it. And I'm glad I did. You know, it was amazing to me what it took to make a production like that. You know, something I'm sure one day is going to be one of the coolest things I've done.
I'm sure that was an interesting experience for a Carolina kid like Chad McCumbee. Right now he leads the street tuner division as the action continues. Moments ago, retired Marine Staff Sergeant Liam Dwyer brought his Freedom Autosport Mazda to the pits. Andrew Carbonell climbed in and was immediately hit with a drive-through penalty for too many crewmen over the wall as you watch McCumbee continue on his way. Here's a replay of the 26 stop.
It's just a strategy call. As soon as the car got to the 45-minute mark, I mean, Carbonell could get in and not exceed the 1:45 maximum drive time. Looked like everything was routine, but unfortunately too many men over the wall. Had to serve a drive-through penalty, so he's got a big fight now to get back in the action, coming off a big win at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca.
New set of Continental tires all around. Continental is the official tire of the Continental Tire Sports Car Challenge. See some of the GS cars, one of the Mantella cars there hitting the pit lane in those iconic Gulf oil colors.
The big key is now is really getting a gauge on your fuel strategy. I mean, typically these ST cars go about an hour 20, hour 30, but in the rain you get so much fuel save, Tommy.
Yeah, you spend much less time at wide open throttle and just use a lot less gas. And the time in a timed race, it really changes it. If it's a distance race, you get a gain, but not as big a gain. But in a timed race, really big difference.
5 car in the pits means Justin Piscatell, who started from pole for the 4th consecutive race, a new record, moves back onto the ST class lead, followed by Dylan Murcott and Kevin Bohm.
I'm guessing they don't have a great read because they don't have real-time telemetry with fuel flow, so there's a minute 33 left now. I'm guessing they feel comfortable to go to the end.
Let's go to Brian in the pits.
Liam Dwyer just climbed out of his Mazda, and first of all, let's talk about this race today. The racetrack conditions right now, how bad is it out there?
It's pretty slick out there. You know, I had my hands full just keeping the car underneath me and, you know, watching cars go off around me. I'm saying, man, I'm glad that wasn't me here. Conditions are pretty slick. They are raceable, they are drivable, but just definitely got to be cautious with the right foot as you squeeze into the throttle, come out of a corner.
All right, let's go back a race now to one that you're not going to forget. How special was it for you to take that victory at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca?
I think the most special part about that was having Sergeant Aaron Detting there. Mazda was gracious enough to bring him out there. So he was there. Then the Freedom Autosports team in a car that was untested with Tom Long and Britt Casey Jr. finishing second. Britt ran that car up front all race long. Tom took it home and Andrew got him right at the last second there. You couldn't really ask for a better finish with the two Freedom Autosports Mazda MX-5s up front, followed by the Alara Racing MX-5 in third. So we swept the podium, which is pretty special for us.
It's Military Appreciation Weekend here at Watkins Glen. These guys, these wounded warriors that show up, and I know that Freedom Autosports does so much. They're the names of all of the veterans that have lost their life in the fight against terrorism on the Freedom Autosport trailer. How special is a weekend like this for you? How much of an inspiration are you to those guys?
I view myself as an inspiration. It's kind of difficult, acknowledging that. When you see these other wounded guys come here, and some of their injuries can be very difficult to visualize because they're not missing a leg or an arm. They could have a traumatic brain injury, PTS. Those are the real difficult ones to pinpoint, and those are the guys that we really got to give the most props to. So to be here part of this weekend, to have them coming out here to Watkins Glen to watch this race, they got to see the trailer, they got to see the car, they got to see another fellow wounded warrior behind the wheel. It inspires them to go off and do things that they thought were difficult or challenges that they had before. I think that's what makes it the most special, is being around these guys and trying to inspire them to do something else.
And you are certainly proof that you can live on and win just like you are. Nice to see you again. Go cheer on your team.
Thank you.
He is an amazing story, is former staff sergeant, grievously wounded in both Iraq and Afghanistan. Now, the 64 ST BMW is in. Jamie, what's going on?
Yeah, this is our points leader, Bob, and David Murray just left pit lane. Just the lap previously, they had already made their pit stop, done their driver change, and just came back in. Heavy damage on the back end of this car. They fired it up. He was going to leave, and they got the no from the IMSA official down here. So the team going to work right now, trying to secure the trunk latch, actually. Not sure what happened to this car, but definitely some heavy contact somewhere on the racetrack.
There we see the replay, heavy impact there, whether there's another car involved. We heard some radio communication. He was possibly touched there. It's very slick there. Let's listen in.
Somebody hit me from behind really hard in the downhill laces. We are done.
Well, the team doesn't seem to think so. They jump on the car.
Tied for the lead in the points chase in ST with 2 podium finishes starting off the season. So devastating blow to them. They're going pretty strong in this race too.
Ted Giovanna sharing with David
very,
Murray.
very edge, you got to tow me, correct?
Tough day to be the points leader in ST. Earlier we saw the guys they're tied with, Zimmerman and Leifouge, off in a gravel trap, bringing out a full course caution, and now the Murray Giovanna's car has issues.
Well, it's really damage control at this point. Just got to try and get the car back out there and try and scrape together as many points as you can. It's a long championship year, Tommy, and I'm sure you've been in years where you think, oh, well, the day's over, but maybe a handful of points can pay dividends at the end of the year.
Well, it's easy to get wrapped up in the moment of trying to win this race. If you think maybe you're better in the rain, you push harder than you might otherwise, or what have you, and just not take a long view. When something like that happens, when you rewind it, you're like, wow, I wish I'd taken it easy, but it's hard to tell yourself that in the moment.
There's the car we were talking about, the 83 Porsche Cayman on the right. Now we go on board the number 14, BJ Zacharias, behind the wheel, and that windshield is fogged up.
Yep, and it's actually amazing in this day and age with the ABS, which has made it so much easier to drive in the wet and the technology, but fog windshields have not been eradicated yet. I'm a little surprised. There's some films and stuff, I guess maybe I'm a little surprised that they're dealing with the fog windshield, but That doesn't, it looks a little better in front of the driver, but this is what Brad Jagger was dealing with, and now BJ.
What was your favorite tool for defogging back in the day? Was it the old mop on the end of the broomstick?
I did that, and in the Trans Am cars, you sat so far away, it had to be a pretty long stick. We discovered that film relatively early on, and certainly didn't tell anyone else about it. Now almost everybody knows about it.
Brian.
I was checking in with Kevin Doran a little bit earlier on the visibility. I haven't gotten a chance to speak to Brad Jagger yet. He said it's a lot worse from your onboard camera. The driver actually has a pretty clear shot. He said, funny enough, I think the defroster comes out more on the right side, so the defroster may actually be making it worse. But for the driver, he said it's not quite so bad, but still that visibility across the right front corner, Tommy, I think would be certainly impeded a bit.
Boy, I hope we can see better than what it looks like from our onboard camera. On a day like this, with this humidity, right up around 150%, I don't know if there's a defogger on the planet that will clear that windshield. But you can always pit and let the crew do it. We'll be back. Welcome back to Watkins Glen. Let's get you up to speed. Big spin here for the 99. Round and round she goes, and folks, didn't hit a thing.
No, that was a close one. Rob Eklund Jr. behind the wheel there, just lost it as soon as he hit the brake pedal. Then the dominoes are starting to fall. Here's our championship leader, Tommy.
Yeah, and the interesting thing here is they chose not to change tires on this stop. Driver change and fuel only.
Typically makes for a quicker stop. So work done on the 6th. There is Hugh Plum, who has led from the beginning, or excuse me, has driven that car from the beginning of the race and led most of it. Currently on point, but expected in the pit shortly.
Yeah, and typically
you want a couple laps, okay?
That sounded like Joe Vardy saying to Hugh, you're going to be pitting in a couple of laps. So, you know, I would think they're pretty close to being okay. You get a massive fuel save in the rain. You're just not running full throttle as long as the brake zones are a lot longer, Tommy. But Joe Vardy seems like he wants to not play it too close and have something in the can, so to speak, if they need to be full out at the end of this race to win.
Now, the risk, though, is, of course, if a yellow falls, you know, they've led this whole way, and if a yellow comes between now and when they pit, all the cars that have stopped before will leapfrog them in the order. So, you know, I think it's uncertainty over exactly what kind of mileage they're getting.
And typically when your championship leader comes in, the guys you try to chase down, you're coming in after them already. So if you're in bad shape, they're in worse shape if you get the same fuel mileage. So surprised they are rolling the dice because anything can happen. But championship leader decided to come in, and Brian's with one of those drivers.
Andrew Davis out of that Camaro. What were you able to tell Robin on the radio when he got in about the track condition?
Well, it's getting worse and worse each lap. The first thing I told him was about the bus stop. It's treacherous through that section of the track. And the entire track is getting worse each lap. It's still loads of fun driving at Watkins Glen. I've had lots of rain time here because it normally does this on this weekend. So our Stevenson Camaro is running really well. We're very good up through the S's, which helps us since we're down on straight speed. We're still able to fight. I was catching the leader there at the end of my stint. Unfortunately, had some lap traffic that was, funnily enough, shaped a lot like my car that dropped about 4 seconds off of our pace. So we lost a little bit of gap there, and we went ahead and did our stop. But Robin's one of the best drivers in the rain, and we got our 6 car running well. So keep our fingers crossed.
Even their fingers crossed, and as you guys pointed out, they did not change tires. I did have a chance to look at the left front Continental that was on it, and I'll tell you, the sipes on the outside of that tire seemed to be about half worn. I was kind of surprised they didn't take the time to change them.
I mean, Jamie's got a story on the Continental rain tire here. They're being a little bit different, but typically you're not waiting on tires. Normally that tire change can be done while the refueling is done. So it's a little bit of a gamble. Okay, they can maybe make it, but maybe someone who changes is going to have a little sharper edge and cut through if it rains a bit heavier later in this race. So we'll have to wait and see how it plays out.
You saw that as they headed into the chicane, that standing water that he was talking about that was making it treacherous, as we watch Ashley Freiberg in the 46 car really working that steering wheel, going through the pavement changes. The car unloads there as the camber goes away.
Great young talent, just 23 years of age. She won here in the North American GT3 Cup Challenge Series back in 2013. First female driver to do it, and that looks like she may be hitting pit lane. So Mike Harvey and the guys at Four Line decided not to roll the dice any further. Get her in, get Trent Hinman, the championship winner from last year, behind the wheel, see what he can do.
And in comes Freiberg. Jamie Howe is there.
As the driver change takes place, Calvin, you mentioned those rain tires. I'm looking on at Fall Line. They do have a set of tires out, but it doesn't look like they're going to be taking the tires. I was talking to the Continental engineers earlier, and they said that when it rains, it's actually when they're the most relaxed because they have full confidence in the robust rain tire that they give to these teams. They say most of the times they don't even need to change them, and it's what we've seen up and down pit lane. A couple teams have made the decision to go ahead and switch them, but most are deciding just to stay on that original set. Driver change now complete. Fuel still going in, so Fall Line will be out pretty soon. Right in front of them, though, Rumbum ready to come in from the lead.
And this may just be a question. You're going to have tire temperature, so that could be an advantage. But as you can see, long wait for fuel, so tire change could have probably been done.
Yeah, we'll watch to see what Rumbum does in that regard. Staying out, really rolling the dice,
They are.
hoping that with these kind of conditions that yellow can come anytime.
Just like that.
Back to the inside of the windshield. Inside of the windshield.
Typically, Giovanni gets it right, so you hate to question him, just like he's got a bigger power from up above at times.
You see the season that Rumbum has had thus far this year, surpassed only by the points leaders, Liddell and Davis, for Stevenson Camaro, just 2 points apart coming into this race. So if Hugh and brother Matt Plum can hang on to the race victory, we could see a change in the Grand Sport Championship.
Is he just putting a lap on the 15 car?
Yeah,
the 15 car.
15 car, of course, had that drive-through, but
Yeah. Scott Maxwell, because they still haven't done a driver change yet. Billy Johnson is yet to see that unless timing and scoring hasn't cycled yet. We'll have to wait and see. Maybe we're a lap behind here on what's happened. Maybe that's why the 15 is in the picture right now.
they might have another
Nice and
issue.
easy, okay? Nice and easy stop.
He'd settled into about a minute 20, or actually about 45 seconds back after his drive-through.
Great drive by Hugh Plum here today, and his brother is tied for all-time victories in this championship, so if he can win here today, Bob, would be a huge day for that team and for Matt Plum.
That's right, he break the tie. He's currently in with Sylvain Tremblay for career victories in the championship.
Slow down, slow down, slow down.
Take it, Jamie.
Car hit the marks perfectly. One thing we've seen is that pit lane's very slick and some of the teams have been sliding. Not the case for Rumbum. They are deciding, though, to take a new set of these Continental tires. You see Nick Longy out there helping Matt Plum get behind the wheel of the car. Right before they came in, he was saying that pit window, the window when they need to stop for that second load of fuel, it's as big as the risk you're willing to take, and they're not going to take a whole lot of risk here today. There's too many other variables involved in this race. Driver change almost fully done now. 4 new Continental tires, sending that out. Brian?
Austin Cindric is out of the 158. Jade Buford will be climbing in. He's got a high-tech piece of machinery with him to stick with a sponge and a rag on the end of it to help clean the windshield. They will take 4 new Continental tires down here, just like we saw on the 15. A little bit of a delay on the left rear, but fuel still going in. Now they'll move to the right side. Left side tires are done. The driver change is done. Be interesting to see. They did have a hesitation on the tires, and now the right side tires are delaying this stop.
Well, sometimes the technology changes month to month. Sometimes it doesn't change for a generation. There you go. Manual defogging. Available as an option in most modern race cars. Back at Watkins Glen in the Continental Tire 150. Bob Varsha, Calvin Fish, Tommy Kendall, Brian Till, and Jamie Howe with you. There you see an incident on racetrack that has brought out our 3rd full course caution of this race, matching last year's total. Now, while we have a chance, let's get you caught up on the highlights of the race thus far. A thoroughly sopping wet racetrack. The green flies. Scott Maxwell of the new Ford Mustang GT350 RC leads from pole.
Yeah, it's a great opening lap by Scott, and then we see a little bit further in the pack here, one of the ST cars gets around, and that Mini for the 2nd day in a row gets heavy damage.
Jason Bredas in the BMW, Cody Ellsworth in the Mini John Cooper Works car. Problem here for our co-leaders in the ST Championship. Eric Zimmerman off at turn 8 into the kitty litter. That brought out the 2nd full course caution. He was able to regain the track. Rain's been falling continuously through. That was some of our best work, absolutely. I did drop a word, though.
What do they want us to call that mini? John Cooper Works special.
John Cooper Works team. Mini John Cooper Works team.
It's a mini.
Just call it the the JCW Mini.
I'm not sure who it was. We were going side by side, and I was on the outside, and he just ran right into the side of me hard. I think he lost the back of the car and turned, rotated right into my door, but he just drilled me, and then I got drilled by another car because I'm head on and nobody can see. I got drilled in the nose.
Is that the 99 radio? Okay, David Russell. Back at a sopping wet Watkins Glen International, we are under our third full course caution of this race, the Continental Tire 150, round 4 of the Continental Tire Sports Car Championship. Bob Barcia, Tommy Kendall, Calvin Fish, Brian Till, and Jamie Howe with you. While the safety car is out, let's have a look at the highlights of the race thus far. Green flag flew. Scott Maxwell and the debutante Ford GT350 RC led from pole.
Great start, but further back in the ST field, we see here Breeders gets it a little bit wrong coming out of turn 1. Take Ellsworth, second day in a row that Mini has had a hard hit.
Co-leader in the ST Championship, Eric Zimmerman, off at turn 8 into the gravel trap. Took a while to get him pulled out. That was the second full course caution of the day, but they were able to resume.
And this was a restart, and we see Maxwell pulling out on Plum, and he was judged to have jumped the start. Might be because he was laying back. They were told in the driver's meeting. It didn't look too egregious to me, but and it's hard to judge unless you have an in-car camera.
Maybe not next time.
Just a lap later, Hugh Plum in the rum bum Porsche came right back around.
Working the outside of that last corner where the grip is. Really great stint by Plum.
Problems all around this track where grip is at a premium. You saw the 83 going around. Big hit there for the 64, Ted Giovannis.
Everyone's going for a ride there. 89 takes a quick spin in the inner loop, and this one, Rob Ecklund Jr. loses under braking. That was for turn 1, even though it was a long way back, and just has enough room to get away with it.
And then here you have big moment for Plum coming out of the bus stop, and that allows Robin Liddell to get a whiff of him, and 2 corners later gets down the inside. Classic slide job. Plum was going to try to work around the outside, and Liddell slid up in front of him, and in more trouble for the 99 car.
It was Matt Plum taking over his brother Hugh, who started the car, and then you saw David Russell in the 99, who was bumped into the rail, bringing out our third full course caution. That's where we find ourselves. Here's our Continental Tire 150 race recap. Robin Liddell leads in the championship leading car in GS. Stephen McAleer in the CJ Wilson Racing MX-5 leads ST. Welcome back to Watkins Glen, still under caution here at the Continental Tire 150. Crews have been out trying to move some of the bigger puddles, including a big one at the bottom of the S's in turn 2. Green does not mean go as fast as you normally would. Watkins Glen right at the center of the bullseye of a massive weather system. As you can see, the wind is blowing strongly. Let's go down to Jamie Howe.
Well, Scott Maxwell, big smile on your face. You were just saying you've never driven this new GT350 in the rain. How was it out there in the first race stint?
Yeah, it's the first time we ever, it just didn't work out. We never tested in the rain. It was good when it was wet, but when it really started to rain, the car went away quite bad. We took a shot at setup, and we missed a bit, but what are you going to do? We had no idea, so we're learning a lot today. I don't think we're going to get the result we wanted, but we got pole. We know we got a competitive car, and we'll come back at Mosport and try to be on the podium.
You guys tested here just a month ago, and you said it was quite a frustrating test. What's the development process been like?
I said frustrating only in the sense it was very productive. We just we struggled, and we learned a lot of bad things, but that's just most of the time as beneficial as learning good things. So second. Yes, you were learning all the time in the restarts. So yeah, it was a good test, but we didn't move forward, but we learned a lot. So it's a long-term program. I'm not worried about it, but just the weather threw one at us today.
All right, thank you, Scott. Brian?
And Brad Jager climbed out of the 14. The Nissan, BJ Zacharias is in it. And Brad, we're looking from the onboard camera. The windshield obviously very fogged on the right side. For a while, it looked like you guys could see. Has that changed?
Yeah, it's definitely changed. It's just slowly moved from the right side across to the left side. Visibility is pretty bad out there. So I was lucky I got the first stint where the visibility was okay. Now BJ has to deal with something that's a little bit less ideal.
Now, I know that you guys were one of the first cars to stop as well with almost an hour and a half left to go in the race. Fuel strategy-wise, are these long cautions going to be enough to get you guys to the end, or how close will it be?
We're definitely going to need at least one more long caution to get to the end. And, you know, with the weather the way it is, I think there's a good chance we'll get that. But it was definitely a roll of the dice, and we'll just have to see how it pans out.
Rolling the dice and gambling down here at Doran, guys.
I should say, you see BJ who's dealing with that fogging windshield. We'll go on board on the GT350 a little later on. You'll see a novel way of dealing with that fogging problem. That one we return. Welcome back to Watkins Glen, on board with Billy Johnson and the new Mustang GT350 RC and the Continental Tire 150. I promised this onboard shot. Look at the windshield and you'll see it's got those heating elements embedded in the windshield glass like we see on the rear windows of most modern cars. As we go back to green.
Look at Trent Hinman burst out there as they drive down into turn one. Who's going to be last on the brakes? You see the run-bar machine really squirrely.
Matt Plum has had it.
You're good. And that's where ABS makes such a huge difference.
Just lean on it. Let it take control.
Hinman looking outside of Plum now.
Way to the outside there.
Hinman now a BMW junior driver, been doing a lot of testing over in Europe. Got a couple of big races coming up at Zandvoort.
Doing the most crisscrossing. Let's see if he can turn that into a run.
Whoops, problem in the ST ranks. That's between turns 1 and 2. Looked like a Porsche Cayman. I'm not sure what the car number was.
Look at the water now.
Yeah, that's what Andrew Davis was warning Robin Liddell about earlier.
Wow. And you can see they're basically trying to get all four wheels up on the curb to straight line it as much as they can and miss the deepest part of the water.
Look at Zacharias here we're on board with, looking really racy here as they're all searching for grip. Look at the run-bar machine. Oh, he's in the grass. Can he get it out?
Oh.
Woo! What a save.
Plum sideways.
Nice one.
Wow, goes from second to about sixth.
Of course, the Porsche's a rear-engine car, so you've got that big lump hanging out over the rear axle. You get that pendulum action going at the rear. It's got to be a real handful.
Well, it works under traction, like straight line acceleration, but once it starts to go.
Yeah, in a long, steady state, faster thing, there's just more mass trying to head to the outside.
Let's take a look at that ST class restart. See if we can see what happened.
3 wide.
Yeah, too many cars and not enough room.
It wasn't going to work, and it didn't.
One car to a complete stop.
I don't think there's any major damage with any of those cars. Look at this. Matt just really wide. He's over on that painted area of the racetrack and just loses complete grip at that point.
And they've got basically what used to be grass paved as the caution flies, and he goes over that ridge, and then it turned to grass, and he was just trying to keep it as straight as he could.
Broken left rear corner, obviously, on the Porsche sitting there.
Okay, we've got a full course yellow. It's our 4th, but because we're within 15 minutes of a restart, it will be a short caution. The pits will stay closed.
Which calls into question that Nissan strategy. It is more yellow to help them out, but if it's not enough, should have pitted on that last one, perhaps. If they come up just a little short here with as racy as he was getting, they're going to really be bummed.
Yeah, and they've been knocking on the door for so long now of getting that victory. Cars are really quick.
Over on the left is the incident. That's Corey Lewis, I believe, in the Strategic Wealth Racing Porsche Cayman.
And guys, this caution is not good for any of the competitors. You saw them sliding around. You were talking about the water on the racetrack. And talking to the drivers, they said, yes, it's raining harder now, but the other problem is when you have these laps behind the safety car, the water doesn't get moved off the racetrack. So at the slower speeds, it allows that water to puddle and river across it. It's not getting knocked off the racetrack. And when we go back to green, these drivers are going to be faced with another handful.
Time to start watching the clock. Upper left of your screen, less than 36 minutes remaining in the race. We are under caution. They should be able to clean up that area pretty quickly and go back to green. When they do, we'll be here for you. See you in a moment. Welcome back. Great day for submarine watching at Watkins Glen International. This is road racing, so the show goes on. As you see, we're still behind the BMW safety car, so let's get down to the pit lane and Jamie Howe.
Well, you see the total hat on the head of Justin Piscatell. That's the hat awarded for pole position. Only ST driver this year with the pole, but not a full season ride. Talk us through that first stint and how this all unfolds for you.
Yeah, it was it's first time driving this car in the wet, and it's the first time this team's worked with the car in the wet. So super impressed with Lara Racing for getting this thing ready to go for monsoon type conditions the first time it's out on the wet. So very happy about that. Had a really good start, was real confident in the car, and then scared myself a little bit in the uphill S's, so I toned it down a bit, and good friend Chad got by, and then I just followed him for the rest of my stint. You know, we were just trying to preserve the car and make sure we stayed up in the front and tried to stay clean and stay out of all the some of the shenanigans that were going on behind us. But super happy. The Conti tires were absolutely incredible in the wet, and this track can be real tricky with all the different sealer patches and whatnot. So tons of grip, tons of fun, and again, super thankful for this team and what they've done for me.
Some of those shenanigans have caused a lot of carnage today. It's put a shake-up in the points. I mentioned you don't have a full season ride. You're race to race, but you could find yourself in a position in first or second at the end of today. How does that change your plan now for the year?
I mean, it doesn't really change much. I've just been working as hard as I can to meet the right people and talk to the right people and do my best to find sponsorship and be presentable and again, be ready, you know, make sure I eat good and exercise and all that kind of stuff so that when I do get a chance, or if I get a chance, I'm ready to go. So it's been working so far, so hopefully we can do well. We came into the race third in points, so obviously it'd be great to get to the top step. You know, we've got a third and a second this year. It'd be pretty cool to get all the way to the top.
You mentioned the business side of things. There are a million kids who would love to be a race car driver when they grow up. Being in this position, what has it taught you about the sport?
It taught me quite a bit. I mean, it's there's kind of no freebies. You know, it's you got to work your butt off, and you have to be prepared for the ups and the downs, and just kind of work your way through them. And it's not really about, you know, hey, I got another ride. It's you know, okay, I got this ride. How am I going to get the next one? You're already thinking and working about the next opportunity that you need to start hunting for.
That Total hat looks good on your head.
Oh,
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's right. One of those goes to the pole sitter in every class. A lot of maturity in the voice of young Justin Piscatell. He was having fun on the sopping wet racetrack, but I don't think that's the case throughout the field. Case in point, just listen to this.
Can't see! We don't know who that is.
We won't ID the driver.
I think it sounds like Kimi Räikkönen.
Sounded like Brian driving me home last night from the restaurant. I was scared.
Red flag.
The first time I was ever actually able to lead Tommy Kendall anywhere.
Note to self, if you want to beat the guy back to the hotel, you need to know how to get back to the hotel.
And now they're showing a red flag from the flag stand.
Standing water in the chicane and all over is just coming down harder and harder.
Have we lost the racetrack?
Well, the key, as Brian said, when you don't have cars circulating, there's just going to be more and more water just laying there, not being blown off the track. So they certainly feel that there's an issue in terms of safety at this point, even under caution and behind the safety car to bring everyone in. But
if they restart this is not what the Nissans want. They wanted to spend time running behind, you know, burning up clock while they were behind the pace car. The clock will stop.
Right.
Well, it should stop. It's still running.
We'll chase this story while the field comes to a stop in the pit lane. I've been looking out the window From about the highest point on the racetrack, our announced position is atop the front stretch grandstands across from the pits, and you really cannot see. Look at that. I mean, you cannot see but perhaps a mile and a half. And somewhere out there is beautiful Seneca Lake, here in the Finger Lakes region of New York's southern tier, classic New York wine country. Find a sunny day. Come to Watkins Glen International to enjoy road racing as it should be. We'll be back in a moment. Stay with us. Among the great moments in the history of Watkins Glen was our old friend and colleague David Hobbs, up on the left of your screen in a typical pose as he considered how to get the most out of his car. And what a car. The John Wyer Racing Team Ford GT40s. Look at this driver group. Joe Siffert, lower left, bare-chested, racing the Porsche 908. Hobbs in the upper right. The race was won by Jackie Eakes and Lucien Bianchi in a Ford GT40 for John Wyer Automotive. There's Richard Atwood, who along with Hans Hermann took Porsche's first ever overall victory at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. The Hawk and Habbo, upper right. There is the JWAE GT40. That race was won the first 6 hours at Watkins Glen for the World Championship of Makes. GT40 chassis 1075. That car had an absolutely glittering history, including back-to-back wins at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Only one of 3 chassis that ever accomplished that feat. Notice the second car in line there, the Helmet Turbine, got its best ever finish. There's the master of Le Mans, Jackie Eakes himself. As you can see, things were a bit more informal back in the day. The memories just go on and on here at Watkins Glen International. And by the way, if you come to town, make sure to make a stop at the International Motor Racing Research Center here in Watkins Glen that provided us with these great pictures. It's a massive library, great place for scholarship into the long and glorious history of motorsports, and a key part of the racing scene here at Watkins Glen. Still under the red flag, the clock continues to run, now showing less than 24 and a half minutes remaining in the race. It's a moment-to-moment situation right now. Jamie Howe is standing by down in the pits.
And right now, Ashley Freiberg and Trent Hinman, you're sitting second, but sitting on pit lane, not where you want to be. You looked pretty disappointed with this red flag. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, well, we're hearing that they might not finish the race, which would be such a bummer because we're so close to it. But I mean, so far, I think we're all still really happy with where we are. I mean, we started 8th, and we were definitely happy that the rain was here because we knew that the BMW would be fast in the rain. So, yeah, we're just praying that they restart it because we want to go for that win.
You and Trent now, this is a full season program for you. It's something that you worked very hard on the last few years. 2 top 5 finishes so far. How happy are you with the results you've experienced early part of the season?
I think it's going well. I mean, we've definitely had some tough times. So I think that as a team, Fall Line Motorsports has really fought our way through that and actually done better than we expected with some of the circumstances we had. But yeah, I mean, I think right now we're just focused on the win. So I just really hope it happens.
You won a race here in the Porsche GT3 Cup Series a few years back, first woman to win. What does all of that mean to you?
I mean, I love this track. I definitely have some really good memories here, and that's one of them. So, yeah, I mean, it's really cool to be able to just show women that we can go out there and we can win and we can compete equally. And, you know, if I can do that and help someone out or what have you, that means a lot to me.
And she is certainly competitive, guys. As I mentioned, sitting second right now. We'll see what happens. Brian?
Thanks, Jamie. Kevin Doran took a huge gamble early on, an hour and a half left to go in this race, and they decided to pit and make their driver change. Kevin, this last caution turned into red. That's the gift that keeps on giving for you. You guys should be good to go now, yeah?
Yeah, we're definitely good to go now. I think we were marginal before this, so we stopped really early today thinking there'd be a lot of yellow, so it's playing out so far.
This racetrack has been good to you, winning the 6 hour here multiple times. The last time you guys did it, it was in the rain. Strategy seems to be your strong suit at this place for sure.
Well, we used to be able to pick dry tires and rain tires quite well here and at the right time, but with the pit rules currently in the series with closed pits and all those different things. And today it's rained so hard, there's no choice, you know, it's all rains. So nothing to strategy today. It's just, it is what it is.
It is what it is, and they're hoping what that's going to be is their first victory. Now, they've got enough fuel to make it to the end. Another team that should have fuel to make it to the end now with this caution is the 26, the Freedom Autosport Mazda. I checked in with them a little bit earlier, and they said, we were really close. We just didn't want to say anything. But right now, Andrew Carbonell sitting in a good spot in fourth in ST, has fuel to get to the end. He and his teammate Liam Dwyer second in the ST Championship. If they can move forward and win here today, that would be huge for their championship hopes.
Question about that.
Sitting in the fourth spot, and that's despite having to serve a drive-through penalty for having too many men over the wall on that first pit stop, or the only pit stop that was actual service taking place. So good recovery drive for Andrew, and this points is really going to take a shake up here tonight. They could be in good shape.
Absolutely. As Brian mentioned earlier, the Freedom Autosport team is fully engaged in this military appreciation weekend here at Watkins Glen International. Of course, retired Marine Staff Sergeant Liam Dwyer is a full-time driver with the team, and his former colleagues are being memorialized this weekend on the sides of the Freedom Autosport transporters. They have completely redone the liveries to include the names of every individual serving in the military who has given his or her life in the war on terrorism. Over 6,200 names on this race transporter. Fitting memorial.
And the story keeps getting better in terms of Liam Dwyer's particular story. The gentleman he mentioned who's here this weekend, or at Laguna Seca, was the gentleman who helped save his life. There was a tourniquet that they all carry in their kits that was invented by John Bennett from Core Autosport. They met for the first time this weekend. I mean, it's just, the story just gets more and more intense. And then you see all the names of the people that were not so fortunate.
You see the crews working. Turns 2, 5, and 7, we understand, are the real problem areas right now. That's turn 2, right at the bottom of the S's. There's a brush truck out there working. Let's rejoin Jamie.
Well, Chad McCumbee watching on as we sit in this red flag condition. You guys are leading right now. If it were to finish where it is, you'd get the first win of the season. How much work has gone into this program over the first 4 races?
Oh, a tremendous amount. You know, these CJ Wilson guys worked so hard between Laguna Seca and here to get our car faster and make it drive better, and it has. We unloaded really good this weekend, and our Mod Space Mazda has been great from the time we first lap we made. So we'll see what happens here. I mean, obviously as racers, you know, we want to finish under a green, but we'll you know, for sure take the win. I think all these guys and Steven, everyone, we deserve it, I think. But we'll see what happens. I think he's pretty confident sitting up there, and it was a great learning experience for me. Obviously, I'm not much of a rain racer. I've had some dirt experience, but he's awesome at it, and he grew up doing it, and that's what allowed me to get out front.
You mentioned learning experience. What did you learn?
Well, on dirt you got a cushion, so and there's the same thing out there. You're just searching for grip. There's so many concrete patches here at Watkins Glen that you really got to sidestep so many things and search around, and I felt like I could find some stuff that was able to give us a little bit of advantage over the other cars. So, you know, it's such a guessing game because the track conditions are changing all the time, but that's what Steven's really good at. So I don't have any concerns. I think we're going to be in good shape here.
We mentioned visibility a lot over the course of this race. What was it like behind the wheel of the Mazda?
In traffic, you know, we were pretty quick that first stint, and we caught a lot of GS traffic. And when we got there, those big tires really was putting a lot of spray up, and that was a huge visibility issue. But our CJ Wilson guys have got our Mod Space car with, you know, defrosters and everything perfect. So as far as our car, they've done a great job. I can't thank them enough because our visibility is great on our own, but traffic's pretty tough. So if he can keep it out front, he won't have to worry about it.
Sounds good. Thank you. Brian?
There's nobody who can give you a better idea of what the track is like right now than Robin Liddell. Under this red, Robin, seems like when you guys were out there behind the safety car, the water really gathered on the racetrack.
Yeah, I mean, it's been pretty relentless, to be honest. I mean, we didn't complain about the conditions. Mike asked me on the radio what I thought, and I said, well, there is quite a lot of standing water. It's particularly bad at the bus stop and also at the top of the hill at the S's. There's a bit of aquaplane coming onto the back straight. It's really the aquaplane that's the issue, because that can just, as you know, the car can just let go and just start pirouetting down the straightaway. So, you know, the track conditions haven't changed hugely, but it's just so relentless that it's not getting any better. and even though there's a bit of wind blowing it around, it just keeps coming down from the sky. So, I mean, like I say, we didn't call for it to, you know, although we were in a good spot, we didn't call for the red flag or anything, but it certainly isn't getting any better out there.
We'll let Robin go and concentrate for this restart if we get it back to restarting. But as you heard him say, it's certainly not getting any better. And with no cars out there, the water's really going to accumulate.
Well, as you can see at the clock upper left, we are down to less than 16.5 minutes remaining here at the Continental Tire 150 at Watkins Glen. We'll take another break and return, hopefully with more information about whether this race will be able to get back underway and finish under green.
I've been with Ford for about 20 years now, and every new involvement, a new Mustang is little steps. This is quite a big difference aerodynamically, the powertrain, the engine, independent rear suspension. So it's a big change and it's a big challenge, but everyone's really excited. I think it's reignited some fire under you know, all the Ford Mustang fans and certainly the race team.
It's an honor to be a part of Ford Performance and Multimatic Motorsports, who did a phenomenal job at getting this car ready for us to race here this weekend at Watkins Glen.
And there you saw the Mustang crossing the stone bridge that was a part of the original road circuit. The road racing began in Watkins Glen, New York back in 1948, ran for a handful of years before it was clear that if it was going to continue, it would have to be on a purpose-built racetrack.
Saw Billy Johnson there like getting ready to go, and I see the officials up and down pit lane trying to give the guys a signal there. Maybe we're going to get some green flag action here, which would be awesome. Jamie, what are you hearing?
I just talked to one of those officials, Cal, and he said in about 3 minutes they're going to send the cars from pit lane. They're going to lift the red flag, but we're still going to be under full course caution until the track's ready. So maybe we'll get some green, but they are going to at least let them go out back on the racetrack.
We started with a field of 46. Looks like we have 42 of them unofficially still running. That could change in the last 10 minutes.
The last driver in the field right now is Jeff Siegel, who's just come back from Le Mans, where he sat on the podium on debut there in GTE AM along with Bill Sweedler and Townsend Bell. So quite a story for Jeff. He really enjoyed the experience, and he said, I want to go back and I want to climb to the top step. But certainly some great memories and visuals from Le Mans just a couple of weeks ago.
And that was a true all-American effort. The Scuderia Corsa Ferrari, Jeff Siegel, Townsend Bell, and Bill Sweedler. What a moment this must be for any racer to go out there and receive the plaudits of the crowd. There's Patrick Dempsey, Patrick Long, Marco Seifried. They battled with the All-American Ferrari lap after lap. And when the class leader dropped out, that battle for third on the podium became the battle for second. What a moment for all of them. Stand up there in front of that crowd. We hope you watched our coverage of the 24 Hours of Le Mans. We'll do it again next year.
I just found out this week that they're actually having a lot of wheel issues with the valve stem actually losing pressure, and they felt without those pit stops for that issue, they could have really been in the mix, not only for the next step, but even maybe the win there. So that just whets your appetite even a little bit more.
Well, gosh, there's only one way to one-up it, and have that kind of beginner's luck. You know, I never made it up there on that podium. I've seen lots of pictures from up there, but that would definitely whet your appetite. And those guys, I think, were pinching themselves. It just underscores, and we saw it through all four classes. You had to be perfect there, and just a little thing set you back. The pace is relentless. A number of guys this weekend here at the Glen, both in Conti and in Tudor, that are backing that up, riding big highs into this weekend.
Such a great race. So many great stories.
I think you're right, though, Tika. I mean, to win there, if you think about now reflecting on all four classes, they did have perfect races.
Yep.
You think about the Corvette winning GTLM, the team that won the GTM category, certainly the Porsche. What a story that was, beating Audi and knocking them off the perch.
Yep.
First time since 1998 that Porsche have won overall. So some great stories from 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, the KCMG Orica Nissan absolutely dominated LMP2 from pole. I think they spent the minimum amount of time, the least time in the pits of any car in the race, and they were simply on bulletproof.
Well, they say you're only as good as your last race, and what's important to these guys and girls right here is what's about to unfold. We heard from Ashley Freiberg, who's in that second place BMW, really wanting a shot at that top spot on the podium. Some people say, God, I don't want to lose this second. They're like, we want a shot at first.
Yep, they haven't had the kind of season they did last year when Trent Hinman, driving with John Edwards, went to the championship. Still looking for their first victory this year. This is the 4th round of 2015.
Got the adjustment of performance since the last round, a little bit lighter, a little bit more restricted, so it gives it a bit more engine power. And Rob Nadell, of course, so he and Andrew Davis gone for 3 consecutive victories this season, and they are the defending race winners from here at the Glen a year ago. So they have a great record here. Robin seems to be really resilient to any kind of pressure, but young Trent Hinman will be wanting to try and make a bit of a statement as the series champion here and get his first win of the year.
Talk about races that have had a little bit of everything. How about this one? After roughly 22 minutes under a red flag for water, we're about to go green with less than 11 minutes remaining here at Watkins Glen.
Something Robin Liddell said, I think he wanted, if you didn't know, you wouldn't think so much of it, but he wanted to be really clear that he wasn't on the radio saying, you got to stop this, you got to stop. That happens a lot. Cars in front, whether, they're playing up debris on the track, you got to go yellow, you got to, you can't restart this. He made it very clear that while the conditions are tough, it wasn't us saying that you need to stop this to protect our position.
Robin on his off weekends does a little bit of rallying. He's got his own car that he takes out and does some local events. So these conditions, and being a Scotsman, he probably never puts good tires on his car in terms of having to buy anything. So
I was waiting for that. Well, he's certainly seen a day like this in his racing career in the UK. Probably lots of them. Well, we'll see who's got what.
And here in ST, we right when Carbonell got in the car, they went a lap down before the lead car had pitted, suffered that drive-through penalty, was able to go quick enough to be on the lead lap so that when the yellow came out, and now he sits in 4th, just a few cars back in line. You can see there's a 1-lap car in between sitting in 4th place.
Just good to see the 93 car up in the mix. They've had a difficult sort of 18 months really. So Gilsinger sits there in 3rd for Honda with the Civic, so they're looking strong. But Mackler, he won here a couple of years ago. He currently holds the point, so he's going to be tough to beat here today.
We've heard about the Stevenson Camaros. Let's hear from another big-time bow tie team. Here's Brian.
Yeah, Mantella Motorsports, the 8 running well, and Anthony Mantella, kind of an interesting deal with you guys. Your regular co-driver is not here. Your engineer is now driving the car. What's it like with Sasha Anise out there, not only driving, is he helping engineer this weekend as well?
Oh yeah, he's got a lot of input in the car, absolutely, and it just goes to show that there's guys out there that don't have an opportunity that really should have an opportunity to drive.
Now this weekend, you guys are continuing to show that this team just gets better and better every week. What is it that you guys have found, even in the face of the balance of performance that you guys have gotten, you continue to move forward in qualifying and the race?
Our engineers, we just won't quit. We were here twice testing. Our engineers are second to none. We're a privateer team, and we got a lot of heart. There's no doubt about it. We eat, sleep, breathe racing, and Chevrolet Camaros, it's rocking.
It's rocking, and you heard him say his engineer as well. Once again, Sasha Anise, their engineer, behind the wheel this weekend, so he's getting a little first-hand experience in the 8.
And he is a force. This is only his 2nd race in the series, the first at VIR last year, where all he managed to do was set a lap record.
Yeah, Mantella are really doing a great job as a great team, got some great personnel there, and they made the switch from the Aston Martin to the Camaro, and a lot of people questioned it, but they've gotten good results. And Anthony currently sits in the 7th spot in the championship, so that's a great year for him.
One more break, and we'll be back for the closing laps here in the Continental Tire 150 at Watkins Glen International. Stand by. We'll be back with more here on Fox Sports in a moment. Back at Watkins Glen, the BMW safety car swings on to the front straightaway. Lights still flashing. So the field will make at least one more lap. We are down to 7 minutes and 15 seconds remaining in the Continental Tire 150. Calvin Fish, Tommy Kendall, Jamie Howe, and Brian Till. I'm Bob Varsha. The rain has not let up.
Tommy, you made a statement about Robert not really complaining about the conditions. Now with 7 minutes on the board, if they come to the team and say, what is Robin saying about the track now? What do you think his response will be?
Well, it's a whole different story when you got a nice, comfortable lead versus everybody bunched up with a 1-lap shootout, which is what it would be. If they don't go green this time, it's not going green.
Earlier we saw the Giovannis Murray BMW off the track. I made a mistake. I said it was Ted in the car. It was actually David Murray, but Ted Giovannis is standing by with Jamie Howe.
As we look at these points and the way everything's unfolded, the carnage today has put you guys several laps back. What do you do now to rebuild as we head into the rest of the season?
Well, we regroup. The first thing is we have a backup car. We might go to that one for the Canada race. So we'll just regroup. We had high hopes here. If it would have stayed dry, the car was starting to really get hooked up. So we'll just regroup the way we always have and then go at it.
With the points at the way they are, everything is so tight. How badly do you think this is going to hurt you?
Well, it's going to hurt us because I know the 83 car is going to finish in front of us, so they're going to pick up. But then the 26 car is right behind us, so I think it'll be packed up more than one could think right now. I think there'll probably be about 5 or 6 points separating 3 or 4 teams.
All right, thank you. And when they came into this race, Ted and David, they were tied with the points lead. We'll see what happens.
Well, there's still a long way to go. This is round 4 of 10. The next stop will be Canadian Tire Motorsports Park.
It looked like the standing water was better, but as I was thinking that, the water streaming off the front of that front tire of that BMW, still a lot of standing water. So we should be, if they're going to go green, the light should be off on the safety car here. If not, I think we've got our answer.
Well, the lights remain on as they navigate the toe of the boot. Even in the rain, this is such a beautiful place. Fans camp everywhere around this 3.4-mile track. Here's a look at the rest of the Continental Tire Sports Car Challenge schedule. As I mentioned, Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, Mosport to fans who have been around for a while. Lime Rock Park in Connecticut at the end of July. Road America at Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. VIR, Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. Finally, final weekend of the season at Road Atlanta on the Petit Le Mans weekend.
A lot of pressure on these teams, Bob. We talked about at the top of the show in terms of the season heating up, including today's race. 5 events in 8 weekends, and you see cars getting damaged, trying to regroup. Ted mentioned they have a backup car, which is ideal, but some of these teams don't. So a lot of these teams are fully professional, like the Stevenson group, but there's other teams out there that work through the help of helpers and weekend warriors type of guys, and it's just really hard to have this sort of schedule, particularly when you've got damaged race cars.
Jamie Howe is standing by. Speaking of title contenders, Jamie.
Yeah, we saw Hugh and Matt Plum running. You led most of that first stint of the race. Now back to 6th. Conditions the way they are, a lot of people have been mentioning the visibility. What was it like when you were in the car?
You know, it was more or less a drying to a wet track, to an even wetter track, back to you know, a track that was somewhat drying, although it was still raining a little bit. So it was really just very difficult to read. And when it seemed like it rained, when it rained the hardest up through the S's. Obviously the visibility, our defroster made about a 2 foot wide by 2 foot wide spot that I could see out of. So very difficult, but you know, the same for everybody. You know, it's a bit unfortunate. Matt put a wheel off, which he never does, and you know, here we are back to 6th. But you know, we keep plugging along, and Rum Bum will continue to fight on and fight another day and continue to show that they're the team to beat.
We have no damage to that car either, and guys, white flag now waving from the start stand.
That's right. It appears we will not go back to green, and all things considered, that's probably the sensible decision in these conditions.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's going to get racy, and there's a very good chance we'd have had some incidents here if we had even a 2-lap shootout at the end. So for Rob Liddell, championship leader, they've been dominant this year. Started off the season with a runner-up finish at Daytona. This will be their 3rd consecutive victory, and they'll pad that points lead a little bit further. And they're going to be tough to beat. Certainly the Shelby debut of that car showed a lot of potential, being on the pole. Led a good part of the beginning of the race, but ultimately they faded a little bit.
You saw the McAleer McCumbee MX-5 for C.J. Wilson Racing. It'll be the 3rd victory in the class for Stephen McAleer and the 1st for Chad McCumbee. So congratulations to him. Guy who grew up in the sport as an oval track racer on dirt and pavement. showing some pretty good road racing chops.
Well, that's exciting to get the first one. You'll always remember this one, Chad.
And as you mentioned a moment ago, Calvin, some of these teams work on modest budgets. Don't want to go out and start tearing up people's race cars.
That's right. I mean, sometimes these cars will sit for a few days before they even have a chance for anyone to get the time off work to look at them. So that's what's neat about the championship. You've got fully pro teams. You've got guys who are doing it on a wing and a prayer, but the competition level throughout is outstanding, and there's always good racing throughout the whole field.
And as you saw earlier, 5 races in the next 8 weeks. You're going to want everybody to have a crack.
We heard, like, during the stretch of the IndyCar season, how hard that was on those massive teams. It probably will decide who the champion this next stretch, depending on who gets through there cleanly, who doesn't make mistakes, who can turn their car around, all those things. This is kind of the meat of the season.
So it's unfortunate that we could not end the race under green. But it was pretty entertaining while they were running at speed. Just a few corners left.
Well, remember, Liddell and Davis right in the thick of that championship, but literally went down to like the last few laps of the season last year, Road Atlanta, when John Edwards just got the position that was enough to clinch it for his teammate Trent Hinman. John and Trent got split on points due to a drive time logging error by the team at one of the earlier rounds, so John wasn't the co-champion, but it was literally changing by the lap in terms of one position over another. So Liddell and Davis came very close, and I'm sure they want to go one better this year and clinch the championship.
Yeah, Trent Hinman was a teenager when that race began, and I think he was about 36 by the time the race was over. What a white knuckle for him. Final corner. Onto the straightaway comes Robin Liddell. He and Andrew Davis will take the victory in Grand Sport. Another victory for the Chevrolet Camaro Z28R.
Buddy, nice job there. Nice job. Congratulations, guys. Good race, everybody. Good race.
And congratulations also to Chad McCumbee and Stephen McAleer for winning in Street Tuner. We'll be talking about this one for a while.
We didn't get to really see how the BOP changes affect when you have the great equalizer in the rain and running a clean, mistake-free race. Whether it slowed him down or not, it didn't keep him from getting the victory. And going one more, if you get slowed down with BOP, going one race deeper into the season without giving any points, so actually building your points lead might show up at the end of the year.
Here comes the McCumbee-McAleer Mazda. They will pick up the victory, and then we'll head for Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. As mentioned, the meat of the season is just beginning. We hope you'll be with us for each of the remaining rounds of the Continental Tire Sports Car Challenge here on Fox Sports. We'll be back to begin post-race festivities. Back at Watkins Glen in Victory Lane. Robin Liddell climbs out of the Stevenson Camaro. It's a hug from teammate Andrew Davis as they pick up the victory in GS, their 3rd straight win in 4 races in the 2015 season. We'll hear from them in a moment. Here's a look at the results in the GS category. Liddell and Davis over Hinman and Freiberg. BJ Zacharias and Brad Jaeger finished 3rd. Jay Buford and young Austin Cindric in 4th place. Down to Brian Till.
Andrew Davis, Robin Liddell just climbed out of the car. All right, Andrew, who has the most difficult time, you starting or Robin finishing in weather like this?
Well, I don't know. Either way, the conditions were treacherous. At the very beginning of the race, it wasn't as bad. It got worse and worse through my stint. I think at the very end, it was at its worst, and obviously that's why we had to go red flag. But just thrilled for Chevrolet, for Stevenson Motorsports, for our Camaro Z28. The conditions obviously helped us a bunch today. We stayed clean. We ran a good race. Robin did a phenomenal job. The guys did a great job in the pit, as always. So just thrilled for the team and thrilled for Johnny and Susan Stevenson.
Repeat here at Watkins Glen. Hat trick, 3 wins in a row. Now, not physically demanding on a day like this. It's cool and all of that, but mentally demanding. How difficult is it mentally to run a race like this and keep the concentration?
Yeah, it's really tough, to be honest, Brian. I mean, you've raced, you know what that's like in these conditions, and
at any moment you can just go flying off the track, and you know the team and everybody gets pumped up and they're like, oh, you know you do well in the wet, you can do well today, and it's like they don't realize how close you are to throwing it off at every single corner. So we had a couple of scary moments, and you know the conditions have been quite bad. I mean, honestly, nobody really wants to finish a race like this, even for us being lucky enough to win it, but ultimately I do respect the decision of the race control, because the conditions were tricky and there was a lot of standing water around the track. We didn't call for it, as I told you, to be stopped, but ultimately, you know, it's tough out there, and in the end, it's high risk and there can be a lot of incidents. So very happy for the win, obviously. It's great for our points. We didn't want to win like this, but we'll take it. We're happy.
Congratulations. 3 wins in a row here in 2015.
Take a look at the results for ST today, and a great win for Stephen McAleer, and Chad McCumbee gets his first career victory in CTSCC. Shimshak and our pole sitter Piscatel runner-up, and great to see the Hart boys back on the podium. It's been a while. Jamie Howe has the winners.
Well, Stephen McAleer, big smile on your face, obviously. What kind of momentum will this give you now as you guys head forward?
You know, we're super excited. Started second place, got the pass, led the rest of the race, and you know, we're super excited. We're going to be close in the points, and big thanks to CJ Wilson Racing, Modspace, and Mazda. These guys have done a tremendous job getting this car where it's at, and we ran around in some Continental tires today that were fantastic. So we're really excited.
And Chad McCumbee, as you look back on this years from now, getting your first win in the series, what is it you think that you're going to remember?
Well, I just won my first race in the rain, so that's obviously really special. I mean, like Steven said, these Continental tires on this Mazda were amazing, and I can't thank everyone at Modspace, everyone at CJ Wilson Racing enough. There's been a lot of work between Mazda Raceway and here that went on, and it sure paid off. Our Modspace car was awesome.
It was great to watch. Congratulations, guys.
Now there's a couple of accents, like a Scotsman and a Tar Heel. Here's a look at the championship standings in GS as we move to Canada.
Great comment by Robin Liddell to frame just how difficult it is. And both those guys that won their class got in under green and had to gauge how much risk do I take and throw it off the road, and how much do I play it safe. And Carbonell holding on to the points lead by getting back up into 4th place there. But as McAleer said, it is close.
It's really close there, and problems for our leaders coming in. So that's a shame for the guys in the 83 and the 64 car, but they're still in the hunt. Very tight there. They're still within 20 points of the championship lead.
Keep in mind, summer is just beginning. The next race at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park will take us to the halfway point of the season. Saw the details earlier. Coming your way Sunday, July 19th, 10 a.m. Eastern Time on Fox Sports 1. So be sure to join us for that. Now, if past practice holds, now the race is over, the rain is bound to stop. I expect sunshine at any moment.
Absolutely, but I tell you what, we go from one awesome racetrack to another. I mean, Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, what a commitment level you need to achieve a result around that racetrack. It's going to be exciting here in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it really is. And these are, it's funny how the racetracks that have stood the test of time, there's a reason. It's because the racing is good. The competitors love coming to them. Put on a good show. What you hear most often about this one applies to Continental Tire Motorsports Park as well, as they're like the great tracks of Europe with the high speed and the sweeping corners.
In fact, Canadian Tire Motorsports Park and Watkins Glen International share something in common. Only 2 tracks in North America that have hosted Formula One, Can-Am, Trans Am, and World Sports Cars. We'll have all the history of CTMP when we see you there Sunday, July 19th, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Once again, Fox Sports 1. Thanks for joining us today. Interesting race here at Watkins Glen International. Another chapter in the book of the Continental Tire Sports Car Challenge in 2015. For Calvin Fish, Tommy Kendall, Brian Till, and Jamie Howe, I'm Bob Varsha. We'll see you next time from north of the border. For now, so long from Watkins Glen, New York.